फिर कब तक पूरा डालूंगा
इसको गजब बाथरूम ये देखो पुराना फोन चलता है देखो ये देखो पुराना फोन चलता है
ठीक ठीक
देखो इसका बाकी
Hello, I guess we are live now, and welcome to our session, Get Going with GitHub. So I see some people are started to join already, and to all those on YouTube, hello everyone. We'll be starting in a while, so stay tuned. So everyone who's already here, how are you guys? Is everyone safe? You can start interacting with us and like drop anything you like in the chat or the comment section. So let us know in the comments if you're safe or not, or how's the situation. And did you enjoy your long holidays that you got? I think let's wait another 1 to 2 minutes and we'll get going. Yeah, who wanted the holidays to end?
एक बात बताऊं आपको जो डीडी करती है सबसे गंदा काम दीदी बताओ रैपर को कहाँ फेंकती है बताओ रैपर को दीदी कहाँ फेंकती है जो मैंने अभी जॉल खोला था ना भैया जो मैंने अभी जॉल खोला था ना उसके नीचे मैं सबसे लास्ट वाले में फेंकती हूँ कचरा
So Chanakya will start. What do you say?
Yeah, so let's start. Let me share my screen.
Wait, Chanakya, I think I'll be sharing those. So before we start, guys, today, as you know, we'll be getting going with GitHub. And before that, how many of you are excited to learn GitHub? And if you're excited to learn GitHub, just drop a fire emoji in the chats, whether you're on Teams or watching this live stream on YouTube. We'd love to see your response and we'd love to see how excited you are. So go ahead, drop a fire emoji in the chats. Also, we would like to keep this session totally interactive. So keep asking doubts in the chats and we'll try to answer them as soon as possible from our side. So don't hesitate on asking questions. And we also would like you to follow along with this session because as you know, like if you follow along, you'll learn much more and you'll get the most out of this session. So please follow along with us so you can get the most out of it. Yep, lot of fire emojis. On YouTube, I think there's some sort of echo. I hope that issue will be resolved by the streamer. Okay, so let's get started now. I'll share my screen. So, before we even begin with our session, like we all know that this is going to be a session on Git and GitHub. But what are we even going to achieve by learning this? If we know that, I think we are going to be much more motivated to learn about it. So I'm just going to go ahead and directly cut to the chase and show you what you can actually achieve by using Git and GitHub. So this is a project that one of our team worked on. you can see that you can keep a track of who all were the people who worked on that project, which were me, someone called Nemit, Chanakya, and Mayank. Right? So four people worked on this project, and we can keep a track of who did what changes at what time and what all were the changes that were made, like the exact history of that. So this is why uh, Git and GitHub is really useful. Now I know this. If you're new to it, this might like seem a little alien to you. That you might not have ever seen something like this. But trust me, by the end of this session, you'll be very comfortable with all of this. And the fun part is that you don't even need to know any programming language to follow along with this session. So now I'll hand over to Chanakya to start explaining Git.
Yeah. So hey guys, I am Chanakya and I'm a machine learning researcher at DSC-VIT. So today we are going to explore Git and GitHub, and we would, as Ritik said, that we would like to keep the session as interactive as possible. We highly encourage you guys to unmute yourself and speak up. If you have any questions, you can just interrupt us and ask anything. We don't really mind any of you doing that. So, yep, let's start with the explanation. So, before we move on to explore Git and see the basic commands, I would like you guys to go to this link and install Git for your if it is not present in your local system. One second. Yeah. So in this, I will just walk through you guys through the link. So in this particular link, you can see that there are various instructions given for installing Git for different OSs. So for example, if you're on Mac OS, please install the Git version for Mac. If you're on Windows or Linux, there are instructions given for them as well. So in the meantime, as you install, I will just explain a certain scenario in which Git really comes to our rescue. So for example, Ritik asks me to write a description about himself. So he gives me the description and I write it for him. So basically, he's a full stack developer with proficiency in app development, Flutter, and all those things. And he's,
Sorry to interrupt, Chanakya.
yeah,
I think there's a issue on the stream.
yeah.
So let's wait for 1 minute because I know there's a lot of
क्या चेंज
YouTube
करूं
audience
भैया
too who
मैंने
are excited
उन्होंने
to
जैसा
learn
किया था
Git
वो
and
सेम
GitHub.
चीज कर रहे
So
हैं
I don't want them to miss out on anything. Let's just wait for a minute and let's get this issue
हाँ
sorted.
विंडो कैप्चर
Yeah,
किया
sure.
और फिर
So
पता
sorry
नहीं
for the inconvenience, guys. Just
क्या
bear with us for 1 or 2
नहीं
minutes
मेरा
and we'll
माइक
get
ऑफ
this
ना ना
back
मेरा
on
माइक
track.
ऑफ है भैया
Vedat, I think you're handling the stream for YouTube.
एक सेकंड तो क्या चेंज हो सकता है इसमें फिर से स्ट्रीम ऑन करनी है क्या क्या करूं
Yuvraj, can you take this up?
एक बार आप ऋतिक भैया कुछ बोल रहे हैं यार कॉल उस पे
I mean, in the meantime, the YouTube thing is getting sorted out. I would just like to ask the audience present here who have whether they have Git installed or whether they have any
जी इट्स
previous
म्यूटेड मेरा
experience
माइक
with Git
म्यूट है
and GitHub. Feel free to unmute yourself and speak up, or you can just type it in the chat box.
Also, how many of you are already experienced with programming? Like, or which language do you program in? You can drop that too in the chat box. Come on, guys, you can just type if you're experienced with any programming language in the chat box. I've only got like one response till now. I'd like others to interact too. Okay, I think the issue has been sorted now, finally. So we can get going with the GitHub session. I hope you like
Yes.
have fun. And yeah, Chanakya, you can continue.
Yeah. Yeah. So we were going to see a scenario where actually Git comes to our rescue. So, for example, Ritik comes to me and asks me to write a description about him. So I write that he's a full stack developer and he's very passionate about entrepreneurship, and he's also uh, built a wonderful startup called Spike. So for that, so now, but I will save this particular description, which is known as Ritik description. So now Ritik comes to me again and tells me that he wants to make some changes in this particular document because I missed out a point that he is also a beatboxer. So now I will go and say that fun fact, he is also a beatboxer. Okay, so now this is Ritik says, yeah, this is looking good. So now let's save it as Ritik description final. Now Ritik comes back again and tells me that, you know what, this is actually not looking good. So I need to again make some changes and let's remove that he is not proficient in Kotlin. So I will remove that part and again save it as Ritik description final. So, I mean, we all have encountered this situation where we keep on just saving the files as description final. And so now these three are the different versions of the same file, right? So initially our aim was to write a description about Ritik. So we saved it as Ritik description. And now after that, he tells that I need to change the description. So I save another version as final, but again he comes to me and tells that I need to change something again, so that is the third version. So these three files are the three versions of the same aim that we of the same task that we aim to achieve. So now how Git can help us is that it can basically help us maneuver along these three different versions. So I can just go back to the previous version using Git. So this is exactly what is meant by version control system. So if you see here that version control system is a system that basically records the changes to the file or the changes that have been made over a period of time. So here, these three were the changes that we had made during this period, and these three are the different versions. So what version control system helps us to achieve is that I can make only a single copy and keep on changing whatever I have to change in that file only. So version control system will help me to go back to the previous version in this particular file only. So you might be wondering that this is just a very small text that I am talking about. What will happen even if I save three different copies? But in actuality, the thing is that when we are coding or when we are writing, for example, some author is writing a book, the text is really very long. It is not just like these three lines that are given here. And saving that particular code base or file takes a lot of storage space on your local system. So in that case, version control system can come to our rescue. So Git is nothing but a version control system that is pretty easy to learn, and its performance is very fast. Now you might be wondering that, okay, I get what version control system is, but why do I need to learn it? I mean, it, I really don't see any advantage of it. Uh, so let me answer that question also. Every major company in this world uses Git as the version control system. Uh, Even if, for example, you get a placement at a good company going ahead, it is always a benefit for you to have a knowledge of the version control system and Git, so that whatever task the company gives you, you can easily track the changes that you have made, and as well as have basically a good cluster of files that you can track. So that is what version control system and Git is really about. So now, before we move on to learning some basic Git commands, it's very important to know that what are the basic bash commands which can help you to maneuver your system, or just traverse the different files in your system using the terminal. So before we look at this point, I would like to ask you guys whether you have installed the Git as I had shared the link before. So have you guys done that? You can just share it in the chat box and as well as the comment section of YouTube.
Yes, guys, let us know if you have done it, because again, as we mentioned, we really want this to be a totally hands-on session where you guys can actually follow along with what we are doing exactly. So you get the most out of it and you learn like during the session and not after the session, right? Just drop a dot in the chat if you have installed Git, because it can't get any easier than that. You just have to put a dot. We're not going to make you go through a lot of efforts. Just put a dot if you have installed Git. So we'll give you guys like 2 to 3 minutes to install for those of you who haven't done it already. And for those of you who have, again, as I mentioned, just put a dot so that we know who all are done with it.
Come on, guys. Someone must have installed it till now. Okay, great, Prashant and Vishesh. What about other people?
Chanakya, can you open the installation guide?
Yeah.
Someone on YouTube is asking us, can you just explain once more how to download and install?
Yeah, sure. So right now I'm on a Mac OS. So I will just simply follow the steps which are given here. Download the latest Git for Mac installer. So once you are done with the Mac, you have the Mac installer in your local system. You can follow these particular prompts. So for example, you can open a terminal. So this is one of the terminal. Uh, so for example, one second, I will just show you what. So yeah, so for example, let's say that if you already have Git installed previously, so once you type in this particular command, which is git dash dash version. So as I have Git installed on my local system, it's showing me that it's the version is 2.23.0. So for example, if you don't, you have to follow these steps which are given here. For example, git config. I mean, you just have to follow along these steps which are given here. So that's it. These 5 steps are what you need to have Git in your local system.
Looks like many of you have installed. So I think we can continue now, Chanakya.
Yeah, sure. So now, for those people who are on Windows and on Windows, you can just simply open your Git bash, which comes installed along with the Git. And for the people on Mac and Linux, you can simply open the terminal as you can see here. So now, let's move on to some basic bash commands which we have. So the first command which you should be knowing is pwd. So pwd basically means that it will show you the current working directory. A directory is a particular path on your local system. So and the working basically means the current. So pwd will show you the current path at which you are present. So for example, if I do pwd here, I will just increase the font size. So if you see here that if I do pwd, right now I'm on my desktop. So it will also show your current working directory at which particular path you are present. And after that, the next command which we must be knowing is ls. Ls basically means list. It will list all the files which are present in your current directory. So in order to view all the files or the folders which are present at my desktop, I will just type in ls, and you can see that these are all the files and images or documents that are present at my desktop. So, and after that, so for example, if you want to create a new folder on your desktop, what you usually do is you go and perform right click and create a new folder and all. But there is a simple command which is known as mkdir that basically means make directory. So it will automatically create a directory for you with a given file name, whatever you give it as a command. So for example, I want to create a folder called GitHub session. So what I will do is GitHub session. So now, if I do ls, you can see here that that particular folder would have been created for me as it is visible here, GitHub session. And after that, so right now we are present at desktop, right? So and now I want to move into that particular folder that we had just created. So what I will do is I will use the command cd, which represents change directory. Now I will type in cd GitHub session. So one of the like the shortcut for typing a folder name is you can, for example, you can just type in the initials git, so gi, and if I press tab now, it will automatically complete it for me. So cd GitHub session. Now if I use the previously learned command, which is ls, to list all the files which are present in the GitHub session, you can see that as the folder was empty, no file has been created. So I will just also show you guys what I am talking about. You can see here that a new folder has been created for me, GitHub session. And if I open it, as there was no file present, so it is empty right now. Now if you guys want to create a new file, so instead of going to GitHub session and doing right click and all, what you can do is just simply use the command touch, touch, and type in, let's say I want to create a text file, which is file1.txt. I press enter and I open the folder. Boom, file1.txt is present. So now this particular file is empty, right? So now let me open this particular file 1.txt. Let me type in the session is going great. So now I save it. So now if you want to, for example, view what is present in this file 1.txt right from the terminal, what you can do is use the command cat file1.txt. So what this command does is it will show you basically what is present inside this particular file. So now you can see I typed in the session is going great, and it is printing that on my terminal itself. So now imagine that I want to move the, I want to create a, for example, if I want to rename this particular file1.txt into something which is known as, let's say, file2.txt. So for that also, we have a command which is mv. So what I will do is mv file, let me increase this, file1.txt space file2.txt. So what it will do is it will help me to rename file1.txt as file2.txt. So if I press enter and I again so now I want to check that what all are present in this particular folder. Again, I have the command which is ls. So I do ls. So here you can see that initially it was file1. So after renaming, it has converted to file2. So now let's see that what is present inside this file2.txt, whether the text has been copied or not. So now if I do, again, this particular, the contents has not been copied. It has just renamed file1.txt, removed the content and renamed it as file2.txt. So now again, let me go and edit something. So now here it is showing that it has been copied the set. Sorry, I used the wrong command. I should have used file2.txt. Yeah, it has copied. So it happens, like you have to be very good at remembering the command so that nothing wrong goes. So the session is going great. So yeah, it has copied the contents as well. So now what I will do is let me copy the contents of file2.txt into a new file which is file3.txt. So what I will do is cp file2.txt space file3.txt. So now even though file3.txt is not present in my local system, cp will automatically create a file3.txt for me so that the content can be copied. So now if I do ls, you can see that file3.txt is also present. Now, the last command which we need to know is echo. So as the name echo suggests, whatever you say, it will come back to you, right? This is what echo generally means in real life. So now if I want to print a line called hello world in terminal itself, so what I can do is echo hello world. So now you can see that hello world has been printed on the command line itself. So these were some of the basic commands that you need to know before to get basically accustomed with the git bash or terminal, so that it is easier for you to move along your system. So if you guys have any doubt in this particular with these commands, you can type it in the chat box. Okay, I think that you guys are pretty much you have pretty much got the commands. So yeah, now let's move on to the next. So let's now get started with Git. Before there is a term which is known as local repository that you need to be aware of. So let me break this particular term into two different terms, which is local and repository. So local basically means that it is present locally, which is at your own system. And repository basically means that it is a folder which is consisting of all your projects files, and as well as each file's revision history. So what I mean by revision history is that if you remember that in the starting we had explained, I have to write the description for Ritik, right? So there I created 3 different versions, which is not good. So I could have used Git there. And so basically a local repo will contain all the three versions which I had shown you guys earlier. So this is what is meant by local repository. And so right now let's go to let's come back to the terminal, and again we have to create. So you guys can also follow the code, follow the bash commands which I am writing here. So now I have to create a new folder in which all the content of this particular session will be written. So for example, now let me see that where am I present. So I will do pwd. Okay, I am at desktop. After that, I want to create a new folder which is called let's say GitHub. Let's name it as GitHub only. So now I have created a new folder which is GitHub. Now I want to go into that particular folder. So now I will use the command cd change directory GitHub. So here let's use pwd. Okay, now I'm present at GitHub folder. Now if I use ls to see what all files are present. Okay, there is no file which is present here. So okay, let's open this particular folder with you can just use your notepad or anything for this. So here you can let me open this particular folder or here. So yeah, GitHub. Now, so first of all, what you guys need to know is that right now Git is not present at this particular folder. You need to tell Git that, hey Git, please come to this particular folder and track all the files which are present here. So so basically you need to initialize Git in this particular repository. What you can do is use Git init. Init basically means initialize. So what I am doing here is that I am telling Git to be present at this particular folder. So Git init. So you can see here that initialized empty Git repository at this particular location. So now Git is present at this particular location. Now after that, if I move to the next command which we have is git status. So what git status basically means is that status in real life means the state of something, right? At which particular condition, or what is the current condition of a particular, let's say, location or anything else. So what git status basically does is that it will tell you what is the status of git at this particular location. Right now, if I type in the command git status, we have not created anything right now, right? So let's go and create a new file called file1.txt. So here we will type in this session should be interactive. So now let me save this. And after that, if I go back to the terminal and again check out, let's say git status command. So now let's go through each of these lines, what it is saying. So on branch master, we will be explaining about branching going ahead. But right for now, you can just understand this is the default branch or the default path on which Git is working. No commits yet. We will also be seeing commit in the next slide. And so what I want you guys to focus is untracked files, file1.txt. So right now, what is happening is that right now the Git is not tracking this particular file. The Git does not know that, okay, this file has been created, what changes have been modified and all. So in order to let Git know let Git know that the status of the files, whether it has been modified or not, we have to move the file from the working directory to the staging area. Again, what staging area means is that now that file will be known by Git. So Git knows that, okay, file, here you are, and now from now on, I will be tracking whatever changes is being made to you, so that it becomes easy for the user to basically go back to the previous version or basically make some changes. So again, so that's where the part git add comes in, to move a file from the working directory to the staging area so that it can be tracked by Git. So I will use the command git add file1.txt. So now what this command will be doing is it will be moving file1.txt from the working directory to the staging area. So now if I press enter, and if I again check what is the current status, so now you can see that initially it was showing untracked files, file1.txt, but now it is showing changes to be committed, new file, file1.txt. So now this is being tracked by Git. Now after this, the command which we need to know is git commit. So what commit basically means is that it is a basic checkpoint which tell Git that these are the changes that has been made from the previous version as compared to the previous version. So please also track these changes. So now, as you can see that new file, file1.txt has been tracked by Git, but I need to commit it so that Git can create a checkpoint at this particular stage, so that it knows that at this particular checkpoint, only the session should be interactive was present. So now I will use the command git commit. Now, another thing which you should be knowing while writing git commit command is that there is something known as -m. What M basically represents is that it is a message which will help you to know that what changes were made in this particular checkpoint or commit. So writing good commit messages are very important, so that it is beneficial for you guys, right? You guys, so that you can go back and check, okay, yes, this was the change I made at this particular commit, and these were the changes I made at this particular commit. So right now I will just use the message. This is the first commit. So yeah, telling the audience to be interactive. Okay, let's commit this. So now you can see that one file has been changed and there was one insertion because we've just made one change, right? So this is what this is the basic cycle that we follow to make a new file, to add it to the staging area, and then commit it so that Git creates a checkpoint at that particular, let's say, instance, so that it knows that these were the changes made at this point, these were the changes that were made at that point. So this is what these are the cycle that we follow to let Git know that what are the changes made, what has been modified. So now let us make a new change. Let's say that I write in the session is going great. Okay, so this is a new change that I have made. Now let's go back and check that what is the status, right? So now you can see that instead of showing new file, it is showing modified. So what this basically means is that initially when I did the first commit, file1.txt was a newly created file, right? But now Git knows that from the previous checkpoint, something has been modified and nothing new has been created. So as I had added a new line, which is the session is going great. So Git is able to know that, okay, this was something which has been modified. So again, the next command which I need to follow is git add, right? So that this can be added to the staging area, this particular change. So git add, again git commit -m. Let's say this is the second commit. What was the change? Yeah, the session is going great. Telling the session is going great. So yeah, again, let's check that. So yeah, this was the basic cycle that which we follow: git add, git commit. And if you want to check the status or basically what has been modified or not, you can obviously use git status for that. Now, one thing which I need you guys to know is .git ignore. .git ignore is nothing but a file that you create so that, as the name suggests, git ignore. Let us again break this into two parts. Git ignore. Ignore basically means that, okay, it is telling Git to please ignore certain files that we will be typing into this particular git ignore file. So let me show you a demo for that. Let's say that I created a .git ignore file, and now let me create a new file which is file2.txt. Now, in order to let git ignore file2.txt, let us type in this particular file name here, file2.txt. So now you can see that file1.txt is being highlighted, right? But file2.txt has become, let's say, dull, so that it is basically telling us that, okay, Git is not tracking this particular file that is file2.txt. So let us go back to the terminal and again check Git status. So now you can see here that only .git ignore is being tracked by the Git, because obviously Git needs to know that git ignore is present at this particular location, right? But file2.txt, which was created, is not being tracked by Git. Otherwise, it should have shown here also file2.txt below .git ignore. So now you obviously need to commit git ignore file as well. So what I will do is git add dot. So there is a command which is known as dot. What dot will do is that it will add all the files which are present to the staging area. We don't need to do git add dot git ignore, then again git add dot file1.txt and all. So you can just simply use the command git add dot to take all the files from your directory to the staging area. So now again I will do git commit -m. This is the third commit in which dot git ignore was committed. Okay, yeah. So now dot git ignore has been committed. Now you might be wondering that, okay, I have made 3 commits till now. How do I get to know that what was the first commit, second commit, and third commit? For that, you have a command which is known as git log. So let us try out that command here, git log. You can see that these are all the commits which we had made till now. 3 commits. You can see the commit message here. This is the first commit, this is the second, and this is the third. And it also associates a date and the author who has made that particular change. So as I had made the change, so my name is present in the author category, and for date, the current date as well as the time will be shown. So these are the basic git commands that will help you a lot, and you need to be aware of these commands to basically get started with GitHub as well. So yeah. Now the stage is open to any questions that you guys have. We will be happy to answer.
Yes, guys, drop in your questions here on Teams chat or on YouTube. We are we'll answer every single question. And also, are you guys following along? Is the pace fine for all of you? Okay, so someone on YouTube, so Shri Balaji is asking, why do we use Git? Now, as I think Chanakya also mentioned, and we showed a demo project in the beginning, that why do we actually use Git? And it's because we want to keep a track of all the history of your code, right? So once there are multiple people involved working on the same code base, You will want to know who made what changes at what time and what were the changes. So you want to keep a track of each and every version. So if someone messes up the code, you don't have to find like the you'll know like which version to go back to. I hope that clears it out. Fine. So I don't think so we have any more questions. If you have any questions later on, also feel free to type them in the chat. Now we'll be moving on to a really interesting activity, a simple task for you guys. It's a very basic task, and if you were following along till now, you'll easily be able to complete it. This is just for your own practice and just to test your knowledge if you're able to catch up till now. We'll be pasting this task in the chats so you can get going with it. Chanakya, can you paste this task in the chat?
Yeah, sure. Okay.
So this is your task, guys. If you want, we'll give you 2 minutes and you can go ahead and complete this. So let me know in the chats how many of you are willing to do it. Like, how many of you think you'll be able to do this? Just give a thumbs up in the chat or something. Also on YouTube, I hope this task is visible. You can give me a thumbs up on YouTube too to let me know like how many of you are planning to do this task right now. Okay, 2 people are doing the task. I don't see any thumbs up on YouTube yet. Are you guys following along? Is everything fine? Yeah, okay. So we'll paste this task on YouTube too. Also, Chanakya, keep the task slide displayed for YouTube.
Yeah, yeah,
Video.
yeah.
So we'll give you guys like another 2 to 3 minutes to complete this, and then we'll move on to GitHub. Meanwhile, I'll paste the task. I'll have to do it. I'll paste the task on YouTube chat too. I'll do it like one step at a time because of the limit which it has. If you were just requesting the task on YouTube chat, you can look at the YouTube chat and it will be there. So Fine, I think we'll move on to GitHub now. And those of you who are doing the task can continue to do so, or I hope you would have finished it by now. Right.
Um, yeah. So for the people who are done with the task, they can share a screenshot in the chat box. Or is there anyone who is willing to share the screen and maybe show your git log command and all, so that other people are also familiar with what the actual task is?
Okay, hopefully, since no one is replying, I'm assuming everyone's busy doing their task. uh, okay, so we'll continue, I think.
Okay,
Okay, someone posted up.
Citation ready. Let's see what he has done. Okay. Oh,
Yep, he
great,
completed the task. Great, great.
great citation.
Vibhu Kumar Singh had posted a thumbs up. How's your progress with your task? Fine, I think everyone's busy doing the task. Let's move on to GitHub, and meanwhile, you guys can just finish up on your task. So now, the exciting part, GitHub, right? Uh, you like it's the whole connecting link uh, of Git, right? So now you can go to github.com to reach GitHub, pretty obvious. And then to create an account, you can click on sign up, fill in your basic details, and your account will be created. Pretty simple. Now, the question comes, why do we even need GitHub? The reason we need GitHub is because what Chanakya explained till this point was all the interaction with local repositories, right? And you were interacting it with Git. But now, what if you wanted to share your code with someone else, or even keep a copy somewhere else for your reference, and you should be able to access it from anywhere. Now, this is where GitHub comes into picture. With GitHub, you can share your code with anyone. You can collaborate with anyone, and this is where it helps teams make project together. Now, since I already have a GitHub account, I'll just quickly go ahead and sign into it. Now let me enter. Yes, now we are in GitHub. So this is the landing page and dashboard of GitHub, and this is what you should be seeing when you log in for the first time. Maybe not the activity part if you signed up recently, but yeah, this should be the overall dashboard for your GitHub. Um, it's pretty basic. On the left-hand side, you can see all your repositories which you are working on or have worked on, and your teams. And you can see like it's like a social media type of feed where you can see what others are working on. Now, what we are concerned with for this session particularly is the repositories, and more particularly the remote repositories, right? So what's a remote repository now? Chanakya explained you what a local repository was, but now we're gonna have a look at what a remote repository is. A remote repository basically is something which is not local, but somewhere else. Like it's somewhere remote, and here you can assume that it's somewhere on the cloud of GitHub. So here we can just create a new remote repository by clicking on the new button. And let's go ahead and create a repository. Give it a name. I'll give it a name of test repo. I can give it a description too, like this is a repository for testing. I can decide to make it public or private. So what a public repository means is anyone across GitHub can access this repository and the code or the content inside of this. But private means that only you or the people who you invite to that particular repository can view the source code inside it or any content inside the repository. So we can just click on create repository here. And there you go. We have created our first remote repository. Isn't that super exciting? This opens up the potential for you to share your code with anyone or collaborate with others. Now, I already have a empty repository made for this particular session. So I'll be going in and using that here. So this is also an empty repository and it's a public repository. If it's a private repository, you'll be able to see a small lock in this particular side of the your username. So we have a remote repository, we have a local repository, but now how do we even connect both of those? How do we get the content from our local repository to this repository on GitHub? To do that, we need to have some sort of a reference to this particular URL or this repository. So this is the reference that we need. GitHub shows you a set of instructions which you can follow to basically connect your local repository to this particular remote repository. So we'll go ahead and copy this URL, right? Then since I don't have a local repository set up yet, I will just quickly go ahead and make a new folder in my, okay, let's open git bash. So I think most of you are following along with git bash. So let's head over to our downloads folder. I'll make a folder called git session. Then I will just make two files in this, file1.txt and file2.txt. Now we can add both of these files. Okay, add in it repository. So now we made a local repository. Now we can add both of these files. I think by now you'd be pretty familiar. Okay, I need to head over. I didn't move to the repository that I made yet. I just made it here. Never mind. I can just manually move these files inside the GitHub session folder. Then I can navigate to my GitHub session. Okay. Git session. And here I can again initialize, add both those files, then commit both of those files. And yeah, you must be pretty familiar with this process by now because Chanakya has done this process several times for you guys. Now adding a commit message. And then now we have a local repository how you're used to. Now the part comes where we connect our local repository with our remote repository. So to do that, we use a command called git remote add, right? So we're gonna type git remote add origin and then paste this link that we got here. Now I'll break this command down for you. What this does is that it tells Git to add a remote. Basically, a remote is a reference to something which is remote, and it asks for a nickname sort of thing for the reference because there can be multiple remote repository for a single local repository. So you can have multiple GitHub repositories made and you can connect them all to a single local repository, right? And this is where the concept of giving the remotes a name comes into play. Here, the name of this remote repository will be origin and we'll be referencing it using this particular keyword. Let's hit enter and done. Here you can see that it added the it basically referenced this particular repository with this local repository. Let's hit refresh here and see if anything came and nothing. And like you can see that there are files in this local folder, but they did not come over to the remote folder. Now, why is this? This is because even though we linked both of those things, we still did not push our files from a local system to the remote repository. To do that, we use the command git push the remote repository's reference, which in this case is origin, and the branch name. We'll be diving deep into branching after this, but for now, this is the command git push origin master. What this means is push your local repository's content into the remote repository. So we'll hit enter. It does its magic, and yep, now we should expect to see both those files here. There you go. We have both of these files in our remote repository too. So let's see what if what will happen if we go ahead and make a change in the file one. We type some text like this is modified file one. Let's save it. And what do you think will happen here? Let's refresh and see. Nothing changed. It's the same old file, the empty file. We don't have the modified version yet. And that is because even though we have changed it in the local system, but still we haven't pushed it to GitHub. So we'll have to go through all those steps again. First add those files to the staging area, then commit it. Create file one, and then push it using the command git push origin master. Now let's hit refresh and see. And here you can see that it's already updated. It's showing the new commit message. And if we click on the file, you can see that this is the modified file one, right? Pretty interesting, isn't it? You can get your changes from your local system to your remote repository on GitHub. Now, let's take a scenario where Chanakya wanted to make some changes to this. And let's see how that goes, right? Let's now, I'll hand over to Chanakya so that he can make some changes to this, and we'll show you a very simple collaboration mode, right? So now Chanakya, can you push some changes to my repository?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, now as I am a collaborator to this particular repo and I want to make some changes, let's say I will write something in file2.txt. So the first thing is right now I'm not having this particular remote repository in my local system. So the first thing that I need to do is that I need to clone this particular repo. So in real life, a clone is basically a copy of something, right? So now in order to uh, get this remote repository in my local system, I will create a copy, which is known as clone. So in order to clone it, what I will do is I will first copy this particular URL. And let's say that I go back to my desktop. Yeah, so I will use the command git clone, uh, paste this URL here. So now you can see cloning into GitHub session. And now again, I need to use the command cd GitHub session ls. Yeah, so file one. So now you can see that file1.txt and file2.txt both are present in my local system now. Now let's say that I go and create for some changes which are, let's say I go to file2.txt and type in this change was made by Chanakya. So now let me save it. And again, let's follow that cycle. Git status. I have modified file2.txt. I will add it to the staging area. I will type in a commit message, which is this change was made by. Okay, now again, as Ritik has mentioned, that we have to push all the changes from my local repo to the remote repo. So now for that, I will be using the command git push origin, as he said that it is a reference to that particular URL. Again, master is the default branch, git push origin master. And now you can see that let's go back to this particular global repo, and you can see here that file2.txt, this change was made by Chanakya, and the commit message corresponding to the modified files are made here, and you can see that now I am a contributor to this particular project, to this particular repo. So yeah, this is how we as developers collaborate with each other on GitHub. So GitHub is a great tool for collaborating with your peers and basically tracking all the versions of your project. So yeah, Ritik, now it's back to you.
Yeah, so now Chanakya has pushed his changes, right? Now let's see if I have those changes or not. What do you guys think? Will I have those changes? To find out, let's just open the file too. And looks like I don't. It's an empty file. If you remember, Chanakya made some changes to the file too, but here it's an empty file. Now, what do we do? One thing that we can do is check our remote repository and see if his changes are there. Yes, they are there. He has made some changes to file too. Now to fetch those changes or pull those changes from the remote repository to the local repository, we use the command called git pull. Now the format of this command is exactly same as the push command. So you can use it like git pull origin master. And this will pull all the changes which were made to my remote repository into my local repository. So now if we go ahead and open file 2, and you can see I have the changes which Chanakya made, and it says this change was made by Chanakya, right? So I was able to get all the changes which were made on my remote repository and pull them into my local repository. So just going over it again, the command is git pull origin master, and command for transferring your content from local to remote repository is git push origin master. I hope this is clear. And again, we have a fun task for you, and this one will be pretty fun. So we'll go ahead and share this task in the chat. Chanakya, can you also share screen to show the task?
Yeah.
So I pasted the task in the chat, and we'll explain you what you need to do. You need to create a GitHub repository on your account. Then you need to link your local repository with the GitHub repository. Create a file giving an introduction about yourself in your local repository, and then you need to push that file to GitHub. And once you're done with that, you can share the links in the chat, and the first 3 people to do this will get a shout out from us. So let's see who can get this done and who can get this done the fastest. I mean, no pressure, but again, it's sort of like a competition. So I don't know. Also, if you have any doubts up to this point, you can go ahead and ask them either in the the Teams chat or YouTube chat. Also, while they're doing this, Chanakya, do you have a story of when Git actually really helped you in some of your projects? Like it made your life much easier?
Yeah, I mean, every developer will have a story about Git and GitHub where where it acted as a lifesaver for him or her. So, I mean, just to tell a short story, so I was developing a feature for like a feature where I needed to detect something in the given image. Let's say I need to detect some lines. So I worked out some code. And so because Git was present, I pushed it to because GitHub was present, I pushed it to GitHub. And after that, I came to know that this feature, that the latest code which I wrote was not working pretty well. So after that, something new came to my mind, and I started to develop that new feature, develop on that. But at the end, I realized that okay, this was not a good thing. Where I my thought process was wrong, so I needed to go back to the previous code which I had written. So I mean, because Git was present, I could easily go back to get back the code uh, where everything was working. So yeah, that's one story where Git came to my rescue. Do you have any story?
Yeah, I mean, like this is the most basic use case, right? Like all of us face this problem when we commit something wrong, or like we do something wrong in the project and we are like, oh no, this is not gonna work. We need to go back. And instead of like manually having to remove those changes, it's so simple. You can just click on one button and it'll revert all your changes, or you can just type in one command and it'll revert all your changes to the previous commit. It just makes our life so much more easier, right? Also, like we're not mentioning the interesting part where it comes about open source collaboration, which GitHub plays a huge role in. So we have like this whole culture of open source projects in DSC-VIT, and we keep a lot of issues open. So you can just have a look at those issues, and then you can uh, collaborate with us and basically contribute to the project.
Okay, I think we got one response to the task. Rehan, well done. So uh, just for other people to know, he has made a repo GitHub session where file1.txt and file2.txt, the previous task is also present, and intro, which is that he is a new dev in this world. So great, Rehan. We are expecting more responses like these.
Yeah, I don't see any responses from the YouTube chat. Maybe if you guys are active, you can do this task too. And if maybe, I don't know, for some reason, if you don't want to share the link, and if you're done, you can just give us a thumbs up.
Come on, guys, let's keep the interaction going. I mean, till now, we are just feeling as if we are some kind of professors or teachers who are just giving the session and no response from the people.
Okay, so I think let's not, for those of you not doing the task, let's not make it boring for you guys. We'll continue now. I think we'll continue with the next part of this session, which is again very interesting. Oh, okay, we have one more response. It's of so Jeevan has made a repository. So fine, let's move on to the next part, Chanakya. It's so we're gonna go into branching.
Yeah. So the next thing which we are going to talk about is something known as branching. So before we look onto this concept, imagine a situation where, so let's say Ritik and I are, let's say we are members of a group, and our manager or mentor tells us that okay, till now we have developed some features. So we manager tells us that okay, I want you guys to keep these features, but Chanakya, I want you to develop certain new features uh, which will not affect the basic code base which we had written earlier. I should develop it in such a way that my previous code base is not affected. So for that, that's where the part concept branching comes in. So what branching allows you to do is that it allows you to develop features, fix bugs, or maybe experiment with certain new features for which you don't want to affect the basic code base which you had written. So what you can do is you can create a new branch from the existing branch and develop some new features on the newly created branch. And at the end, if you like that feature, you can always merge it back with the original branch. So now, in order to know that what are the current branches present in your repo, what you need to do is, let me go back to the previous repo which I was showing. Yeah, so now if I first, that command is known as git branch. So what git branch allows you to do is it will tell you all the branches which are present in your local repo right now. So you can see that right now only master branch is present. So as I had told you guys earlier, master branch basically is the default branch which is created whenever git is initialized. So now in order to create a new branch, let's say I want to develop some new ML features, I will create the branch git branch. Type in the new branch name, git branch ML dev. So now what will happen if you again use the command git branch to check out which all branches are present? You can see that a new branch has been created here. But you might be wondering, what does this star and the master highlighted in green means? It basically means that right now your repo is at the master branch. It has you. So now in order to create new ML features, first you need to switch to the ML dev branch. So what you will do is you will use the command git check out ML dev. So now you can see switch to branch ML dev. And again, if I use git branch command, you can see now ML dev has been highlighted in green, and it has been started representing that right now we are at the ML dev branch. So now in order to explain the scenario in a much more better way, we have created a diagram for you guys. So you can see here that if I use the command git log, you can see that this was the initial state, right? If you guys remember that initially we had made two commits and master was just pointing to the second commit. But now, as I have created a new ML dev branch, both master and ML dev are present at second commit, as it can be seen in the git log. So head at ML dev and master, because we have not created any new change in the ML dev branch. So that's why it is both are pointing to the second commit right now. But now imagine, let's go to our folder and let's say that I want to say this is the part where ML code comes. So now, if we go back again and check Git, the status of Git right now, you can see that Git status modified file1.txt. As I have added new line here, so that's why it's showing modified. But now, let's see, whenever you switch to a new branch and create new features, obviously you need to follow that cycle again, because Git needs to know that okay, this was the change that was made in comparison to the previous changes. So now I will again use that cycle, git add dot git commit dash m. Let's say this is the third commit, but the first for ML dev. So now what this essentially means is that right now this is the third overall commit, but this was the first for the ML dev branch. So now let's press enter. And now if we see that, if we check use git log, you can see that master has stayed here, but the ML dev has moved a certain branch, a certain commit ahead, because that particular commit was made for the ML dev branch. Now let's go back to our diagram. So what the stage at which we are right now is, so master has remained at the second commit, but ML dev has switched to the third commit. So now if you guys remember that I had told you guys, our manager has told us that I want the initial code base to be the same. That is, the code at master should be the same irrespective of whatever new features you create at the ML dev branch. So now let us switch back to the to the master branch and check that whether these two lines which were present initially are present, or this third line has been added to the master branch as well. So now let us switch back to the master branch, git checkout master. You can see that the line which was developed in the ML dev branch has disappeared. Let's go through that again, git checkout ML dev. So now I expect that the third line which was created in the ML dev branch would come up. Okay, let's press enter. You can see that the third line is present, has come back, because we have switched to the ML dev branch where the new ML code was created. So now let's say that I go to my manager and tells him, okay, this is the new feature that I have added. Do you like the feature or not? And he tells me, okay, certainly we can take this into our original code base. So what he essentially means is that he wants me to merge the code which was developed in the MLDev branch with the master branch. So now what we will do is we will switch back to master, because we need to merge the code in the master branch, right? So now let's go back to master and check whether we are in the master branch. Git branch. So yeah, right now we are at master, and our aim is to merge the third line which was written here with the original code base. So I want you guys to focus on both the screens simultaneously so that you guys can actually observe what is happening. So what I will do is I will use the command git merge. As the name suggests, I'm going to merge the code from the MLDev branch with the master branch. So now after git merge, I will write the branch name for which I would like to merge with the master branch. Git merge MLDev. Now you can see that I am right now at master. The third line has been merged with my original code base. So this is where branching helps us, because it allows us to create separate features or maybe fix bugs in a separate branch so that the initial code base remains the same. So that's one part of branching that I really like, because create new changes or develop new features without affecting the original code base. So now this is, in order to summarize, this is where we are present right now. So I have merged the third commit with the original two commits, so that master is now pointing to third commit and the MLDev is also pointing to third commit. Now I am done with the MLDev branch. I want to delete it. So now in order to do that, I will use the command git branch -d and the name of the branch that I want to delete, git branch -d MLDev. So you can see deleted branch MLDev. So now let's check that what are the branches which are present. Git branch. So master was present initially, and it is present right now as well. So yeah, this is what branching and merging means. So yeah, Ritik, now it's back to you.
Okay, so that was a really great explanation by Chanakya about merging and branches. So we'd like to ask, like, do you have any questions up to this point, both on YouTube and on Teams? Let us know in the chats, like, if you're following along, just give a thumbs up, or if you have any questions, please let us know. Okay, Rehan seems to be following along. That's great. Fine, let's continue, I think. Or do you guys want like a break for 2-3 minutes? I think let's continue. Last topic, so let's just, I think if you're actually following along, you'll be excited to learn this last part, which is about making pull requests and first forking the session, I mean, a repository, and then making pull requests to it. So let's go ahead and do that right now. I'll share my screen. Now we are back on GitHub. So forking and pull requests are done on GitHub. And before I even okay, I'll explain it to you and then we'll see them in action. Now, what a fork does is that it allows you to fork someone else's repository onto your account. Now, what that means is that you get someone else's code. It's similar to cloning, but you get a reference back to that other repository which you clone. So again, I know not very clear right now, but hang on and you'll get the hang of it. So what basically forking does is that when you click on a fork button on someone else's repository, it will copy the exact same repository and bring it over to your account. So basically you can treat it as your own repository and make make any changes you like to it without actually affecting the repository that you forked off. But now the coolest part about this is that if you decide to contribute to that original repository which you actually took a fork of, you can. The way that is done is that you can make a pull request to that original repository and basically ask the owner of that repository to merge your pull request. What that means is like they have to pull your code from your fork to their repository. And this is where the concept of, I mean, this is what open source program is based on, right? You're not going to get access to the code of like the push access to the code of bigger organizations to directly push changes to their repositories. But what you can do is you can take a fork of it, fork it to your own account, make all those changes, and then make a pull request so that the organization knows what changes you have made, and they can decide if they want to approve it and merge it into that code base or reject it. So now let's enough of talking and let's get a hands-on example of this. I'll go to Chanakya's profile and let's see, I'll just fork any one of his projects. So for example, I want to contribute to, let's see, yeah, I find this project called Backend for CNN and I want to contribute to his project. What I can do is I can click on this fork button right here. You can see the fork button on the top right. You can click on this. Then it will ask you where should we fork Backend for CNN. And I will go ahead and say on Ritik Jain because that's my account, and GitHub will do its magic and it will fork this particular repository into my account. So here you can see it's done. I get a little fork symbol on my repository stating that it's forked from Chanakya's repository. Now I have all of this code base and I can make any changes I want to this without actually affecting his repository. To do that, I will first have to clone this project to my local repository. I will click on this, copy button for this link, then open git bash, head over to my downloads folder. I will clone it here. It will clone the project. Then I will change my directory into this. Let's see what all files are here. Okay. So now let's say I want to change his readme. I want to change it to something else. I want to insert my name to make it just much more cooler. I'll just put Ritik Jain here in the bottom. I'll save it. And now I've made this change and I want to push it. So I'll do git add dot git commit. Let's say made changes to readme. Then I can push it. Uh, okay. Once. Okay, the branch was called main in this case. Fine, not master. So now it will go ahead and push this to my remote repository, which is the fork of Chanakya's repository. It will not push directly to Chanakya's repository. It will only push to mine. Here you can see that the new change is here. My name can be seen at the end of the README. And since this is an amazing change, I would like to contribute to Chanakya's repository and ask him to merge my changes. To do that, I will open a pull request. So I'll click on open pull request and it will check if it can be merged. Then here I can click on create pull request and I can just give it a title and leave a comment and create a pull request. So done. I have contributed to Chanakya's repository from my own fork. Now we'll move on to his point of view of what he'll see and how can he accept or reject my changes. So now Chanakya, back to you.
Yeah. Yeah, so as he had contributed to this particular repo, which is backend for CNN, and if I go down and check whether his change is present or not, you can see that his change is not present. The reason it is not present is that he had explained that you have to open a pull request to a repo for which you are not a contributor, right? So for this particular repo, he was not a contributor. So in order to contribute, he needs to open a pull request, and it's up to me now if I want to merge it or not. So I will go and check what are the pull requests present, and here you can see that. Let's see that what change he has made first. I see that okay, he has added his name at the end. So now, for the purpose of this session, I will be able to integrate this particular change. But in real life, I what we would like to tell you guys is that this particular change, like changes made to a README or something that is not going to add value to a particular repository, that change is not considered a good change. So you can maybe contribute to a particular repo where you are adding a new feature for them, or you are making some changes which are really adding value to that particular repo. So just like Ritik mentioned, that we at DSC-VIT are aims to get contribution from the people who are really interested in our project. So for example, here you can see that as Ritik said, that we have issues opened at our different repos. So here you can see that we have opened two issues for this particular repo, which has improved the accuracy. And also, if you are able to make changes to these particular issues, which will really help us a lot, that is what open source is really about. Like they aim to get contributions from the people who are actually not a part of their organization, but aim to promote open source programming. So we encourage you guys to check out our repos and make certain contributions if you are really interested. And so yeah, for now, let's merge let's merge his pull request. So I will go back, and at the end you can see that there is a button which is merge pull request. I will merge this, and you can see, and now if I go back to my original repo, you can see that his name is present at the end. So yeah, this is how the collaboration works in real life, where certain people want to, if you want to make some changes or make a new feature for an organization, you can always go and first fork that particular project, and then make changes to your local forked project. And then if you think that it will add value and it is a good feature, you can obviously make a pull request so that the organizers can review your code and whether it is good or not. And depending on that, the conversation can go ahead. So yeah, back to you, Ritik.
So this concludes like all the theory and practical things of our Git and GitHub session. And yep, this was the end. But again, as this is a very practical oriented session, we have one last task for you so that you can just practice the thing that we explained right now, which was forking a repository and then making a pull request. So we have one last task for you, which will be pasting in the chat. Okay, we might not paste it, we'll just explain it to you. So the task is that I'll share my screen once. Let me go to GitHub. The task is that, give me a second. Yeah, so we have created a repository exclusively for this session, and you can go ahead. I'm pasting the repository in the chat. You can go ahead and make a pull request to that repository after adding your feedback in this feedback folder, right? Like you can add a feedback, your name, append your name underscore feedback.txt, add your feedback in it, and you can make a pull request to this particular repository. We have explained the instructions, like these steps to do this. You can follow along with these, and hopefully we expect to see your pull request in this tab right here. So I think the instructions are clear. Chanakya, is there anything you would like to add?
Yeah, nothing else. I mean, you guys can go and contribute to this particular repo, and we hope to see whatever feedback you have. You can say it out.
Are there any more doubts you guys have? Like any any doubts like related to Git or GitHub or programming in general? We are ready to entertain them. Yeah, Chanakya, can you send the repository link in the YouTube chat?
Yeah, yeah, sure. Um,
So the link has been pasted in the YouTube chat section too. So those of you who are watching on YouTube can head over to the repository and make a give us a feedback. And I think since I think we can end this session if there are no more doubts or yeah. So with this we conclude our session, and we hope to see you in the upcoming DevCamp series. We are gonna be coming back with more exciting new topics to cover, and hope to see you soon. Bye bye everyone.
Bye,
Stay
guys.
safe.
Stay,
Bye.
stay, stay home.